Alize Smith, who's accused of killing Belvidere man Andrew Hint and his two sons, testifies in his trial Tuesday. On the stand, Smith called Hint a brother and disclosed their close friendship, which he says started in the McHenry County Jail. Smith did admit to taking down the Ring camera at Hint's home, which he says he did so as to not incriminate him and Hint in a failed robbery.
Smith claims he did not shoot Hint and his kids, appearing choked up while saying so. The trial resumes tomorrow. The judge in the case has asked attorneys to have closing arguments and jury instruction ready.